Let's get this recording. So welcome all. Welcome to the lovely Friday. It's actually really
good morning
in Germany. I don't know what it's like for you guys over in the west coast of Canada, but the temperatures are dropping. It's starting to get into winter, and I'm not used to winter. I'm from Australia. Our winters are like, I don't know, 7 degrees max. I mean minimum. So it's a bit of a different feel for me. I have been getting used to the last couple of years, but still every time I get a bit of a shock when the temperatures drop so much. So 4 degrees and rain in van. That sounds not so pleasant, to be perfectly honest with you. At least it's not raining here yet. It's just cold. But yeah, anyway, I hope you've had a fantastic week. I have. It's Friday. What better day than a Friday? Vibrations are high. Even though all of us traders have to say goodbye to the charts for a few days, it's still a very nice feeling. And that brings me to my gratitude. I mean, how grateful can we be, especially traders, where we have something where everyone lives for a Friday and dreads Mondays, whereas for me, I can't wait. Monday comes back and I'm like, woohoo, here we go, we're on again. So I'm very grateful for an opportunity to find joy in the start of my working week, which is not something that everyone can do. I'm very grateful for the walk I had this morning. I decided to take it a little bit easier on my morning routine and just have a bit of an extended weekend. So I've had a lovely morning, went for a walk with my family, enjoyed a bit of the fresh weather, got a few chores done and stuff like that. And it was really nice just to take that sort of step back, because I find often we drive ourselves so hard, especially people doing trading or online businesses or self-employment or any of those kind of legs of avenues of money producing, where we're so self-reliant and we need to push ourselves, and really everything we take is home with us. It's on the mind, it's always there. And the ability to step away from that for a little bit creates a really almost a reset. So I was really grateful for the ability to do that today, and I feel much more vibrant and invigorated and refreshed and ready for a nice weekend to get myself organized, ready for Monday. So that's what I'm grateful for today. Please chuck in the chat any gratitude that you have. It's been a fantastic week. I'm very grateful for everyone that showed up this week and has made this very first week of these mindset calls enjoyable and interactive and very pleasant for me. So thank you very much for that. Let's have a look at this. Chat's been going off. I see people sharing the weather. I'm grateful for this group and the help it is giving me. Perfect. 4 degrees and rain in Van. That's what I said. We have snow, -4 degrees. Oh, goodness. Important to take a break each week also. Yeah, -2 and 6 inches of snow, -8 today. 4 days of snowfall forecast in Alberta. Wow. Grateful my workout is done and it's Friday. Yep. Grateful for having a good sleep. Oh, a good sleep, Deanna. I dream of it. Since my little man, I've become accustomed to 4 or 5 hours of sleep, but I'm enjoying it. I really am. It's great.
Yeah, Jake, I'm in a different stage of my life here than and then new babies. So yes, but then sometimes sleep isn't always so restful, but last night was a good one.
Nice. Nothing better than having a fresh night's sleep and getting all invigorated and ready to go.
Absolutely.
Right. So we've had a fantastic week, or I've had a fantastic week. I don't know about you guys, but I've definitely really enjoyed sharing. Deanna yesterday sharing her story and introducing herself to the group. Definitely the interaction that we've had so far in the group has been great. I mean, what do you expect for the very first week with very little advertising to have 10 consistent people? That's incredible for me. And to have the consistency of people coming back obviously means that you guys are enjoying these calls and hopefully growing and developing as much as I am as I share my information. So what I wanted to do today is kind of summarize the week we've had, going over a few of the terms and really getting a bit of feedback from you. For Fridays, what I would like to do moving forward, if possible, is to kind of have more of a friendly Friday. Fridays are meant to be fun, end of the week, summarizing things, recapping, self-evaluating, and that's one point I'll talk about today. And just sharing. So, if in the future you feel like you want to have an input like Deanna has on Thursday, then I think we'll do more of a sort of guest speaky kind of thing on Friday, or a bit more of an open conversation. So if you've got something that you've learned throughout the week or that you really want to share with the group, just message me privately and we can discuss, the availability and people sharing their little bits on Friday, more of a one-to-one discussion or one-to-group discussion, whatever we feel is necessary. But for this week, I did mention it yesterday, but I'd like you to share in the chat or out loud, your biggest kind of takeaway or what you've learned the most from this week. I hope that you're taking down notes, or maybe, you can't listen to the recordings yet because I haven't released them, but hopefully you can go back and re-listen to these things and in the future, really take down what your takeaways are and reevaluating. You might hear me say this a lot and you'll hear me repeat myself a lot, but self-evaluation is one of the key aspects to growth. Like if you can take in all the information and do all the things, but if you don't take a minute to step back and evaluate yourself, look back and see how you're doing and check up, maybe like for me, what I need to do this weekend is go and listen to these recordings myself and see how I can improve my energy, my tone, my voice, anything along those lines, to try and improve myself, because you can find yourself getting stuck in the same consistent motion without any progress if you don't self-evaluate. So it's really important. So I would like anyone who's had a bit of time to self-reflect on this week, or even if you reflect after each episode or each class or whatever you want to call these things, to share what they have taken away. What have we got in the chat? For mornings, health and freedom. I'm grateful for the technology, being able to trade, having a comfortable home, and the learning this past week. Perfect. Grateful for this new morning mindset routine, even if I can't participate as much as I'd like to. Driving to work makes it a little bit harder. Still loving listening. That's great. So if there's anyone there that would like to share, feel free. Otherwise, I will progress into sort of recapping what we've done. And please don't hesitate to, if you need some more time to think about it, to jump in at any point and chuck it in the chat. I'm trying to stay as active as I can on the chat. Let's have a look. See, we've got some messages coming through here.
Jake, I noticed somebody unmuted, so maybe they wanted to participate. Oh, maybe not. They've muted now again.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Thank you. So we've got a few messages in the chat here. The biggest takeaway has been the focus on being grateful. It's so easy to skip this step and so important. Yeah, sometimes the easiest things, the simplest things to do are the simplest things not to do. And the small amount of effort it takes to find gratitude and the impact it has is really something that I, again, would highly recommend just getting into the habit of it. Even if it sounds weird, even if you just hear me talking and you're like, yeah, that's not me. I would recommend next week giving it a go. Just writing them down. If you don't want to say them out loud, say them out loud. If you do, share them if you can. All those things. Once you sort of project it out into the universe, I guess it becomes more permanent, and you're not just telling yourself it, so you can't deny it. You're telling other people what you're grateful for, and you're sharing that with others. So definitely, I love that. So easy to be grateful, but so many people don't do it. And this is, for me, honestly, I don't do it anywhere near enough. So having these calls gives me one point in the day where I have to do it because I know it, I want to do it. And so I'm sort of forcing myself into this routine. And in doing so, then I sometimes will add it before I go to bed as well. So it's been a great little addition to my day. It's encouraging to hear other struggles and successes, to know I'm not alone in this journey, and the practice gratitude daily. Yeah, so yeah, don't worry about that. You're definitely not alone. I think everyone who makes it in trading has a struggle story and has been through a lot. I think the ones who make it in trading, actually in any aspect, are the ones who are willing to cop the most shit and keep going. So many times people have a dream and a goal and aspirations, and then they go for it, take the first knock and go, yeah, then I don't really get the success I wanted straight away. Didn't really become a millionaire overnight, XYZ, and they're on to the next thing. And I was guilty as all hell of doing this for the first 4-5 years of my online traveling years. Like when I finished my degree, I wanted to go traveling. So I started looking at stuff and I bounced through 6 or 7 things very quickly because I didn't find instant success. And then I realized that it wasn't, and I say this to anyone, like there's so many ways to make money online. So many of those ways work, but the problem is people don't work. You have to be willing to do the work no matter what it is. Like there's no easy money. There's no easy success story. Like whatever you do, you have to be willing to put in that little bit of work and go through the grind and go through the battle and go through the personal discovery to develop the skills and develop the mindset that it takes to become successful in whatever area it is that you're doing. So I highly recommend that if you have any goals or aspirations, be willing. And I said this the other day, choose your shit sandwich. There's going to be struggles in everything you do, but just pick the struggle that you want to fight with and fight for it and get through every single area of that, knowing that you can jump ship and go to, the grass is always greener on the other side, but there's going to be a struggle over there. There's going to be a lawnmower that's going to break on the other side too. So just pick your shit sandwich and run with it, but just don't give up. Just don't quit. That's my best advice to anyone. Be willing to self-evaluate. Introspection is actually something that I was going to talk about today. So I may as well start with that. The power of introspection and just being able to observe your own thoughts and your mind and like your feelings and just understanding who you are. Like it's going to help in every aspect. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense. And I didn't go off on too much of a tangent there, but really the ability to look within and self-evaluate and grow will help no matter what it is we're doing. And definitely those who make it in trading are the ones who have been able to self-evaluate, figure out why they're failing, figure out what they need to improve on, and just stick with it. Books and resources. The education on self-evaluation and the information on books and resources is also valuable. Yeah, well, the whole point of these calls for me is to share my growth and development, and all I'm doing is reading books, looking at YouTube videos, listening to audios, and that's just how I grow and develop on a day-to-day basis. And then what I like to do is self-evaluate and look how I'm progressing, what I'm doing. And the best way I've found to do that is in a group setting. Have a group of people who are on the same wavelength, on the same trajectory, and just share your thoughts out loud, share with them. And most of the time that I'll be on these calls, it'll just be me sharing my takeaways from videos I've watched, people I've listened to, books I've read, audios I've listened to, and just discussing them. And hopefully, come Fridays, we can have a bit of more of an open discussion about the different things that we've taken away. I was thinking even maybe when I start, I've got a few baby books that are on my shelf at the moment, so they're not too much on the mindset and personal development aspect. But once I finish them, I think I'll be sharing with you which book I start next and giving people the opportunity to sort of read along and hopefully take away bits and pieces as I'm sort of reading through and taking away bits and pieces. So if you like that idea, please let me know in the chat, drop some ones or something like that, so I can know if anyone else would be interested in doing that kind of concept. If not, I'm happy just doing my thing and sharing what I learn along the way. Got some feedback there. Perfect. Couple of people doing a book review and going through. Doing a book together is a good idea. Perfect. Yeah. So yeah, well, we'll explore that as things progress. Like I said, I got some baby learning to do first. And so that's kind of high on my priority list. I'm actually reading a book about the weekly jumps of brain development for babies. And so I can kind of keep up with the level of learning that my little man's doing and try and help him grow and develop as is his brain, shall we say. I never know what's too much or what's not enough. So it's good to understand what's happening in their brain so I can hopefully provide him with the information and the kind of interaction that will help develop that as much as possible. Anyway, enough about my little man. Let's have a look at the week we just had, right? So if there's any more takeaways, please drop them in the chat, anything that hit home. And we'll touch base on them as they come up. But what we had on Monday, we were talking about mindset. We were really discussing what mindset is. And I did have it out for you, but it's basically the establishment of attitude over a period of time. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually find it so I can give you the exact meaning that I was using because I felt like that was useful. Yes, so mindset is the established set of attitudes held by someone. That's what we're saying. So established is kind of over a period of time or through repetition, and attitudes is our thoughts, feelings, and emotions. So I found it really interesting that this was the definition of mindset and how important it was to understand that we can change our mindset at any point in time by changing over a length of time how we think, feel, and act towards something, our attitude. And our attitude is strongly linked to our identity, which was another thing we spoke about. So we were discussing the 3 types of brains: the emotional, the logical, and the computer, or let's go through this in a one-to-one. So the emotion, or the chimp, as is stated in the chimp paradox; the logic, or the human, or what I like to call the computer, or the subconscious. Now, the computer is like those habits, those instantaneous things that we do. We don't have to think twice about, like, who here, and you might hate me as soon as I mention it, who here thinks about breathing, or who here thinks about how their tongue moves in their mouth, or the amount they blink their eyelids. Until I mentioned those things, you probably weren't thinking about them at all. And now you're probably doing all of them at once. And like, wait, blink, tongue, breathe. It's a weird concept. Our subconscious brain, or our computer, just does these things on autopilot. We don't have to think about them. On the contrary, which I find really, really interesting, is the fact that, our bodies, our senses pick up on so many things that we are actually unaware of. Like, we see things with our eyes, and the light goes in and the receptors do the thing, but we consciously don't know about it because we haven't put the attention to that thing, shall we say, whatever it is. Our ears hear things, our skin feels differences and temperatures and everything like that, but we don't acknowledge them, or we're not consciously aware of them. But that doesn't mean our body isn't aware of these things. And so this is where I often say that, your intuition or your gut feeling can be very, very powerful. And it's really, really important to listen to those. So I want to discuss the idea of like listening to your subconscious. Have you ever had like an idea when you're like, oh, that came out of nowhere, and this thought just pops into your head, and then you have to consciously decide whether you're going to listen to that, or whether you're going to agree with it or disagree, or what you're going to do with it, right? I think on the charts especially, this is really, really important. And I'm learning this. I'm really trying to learn to listen to my subconscious, or my intuition, whatever you want to call it. When the other day, so I discussed my big loss, not my loss, but my big lesson, shall we say. And that was purely could have been avoided by me going, something has put the thought into my head, don't know what it is, that I should maybe walk away from the charts now. So let's go more superstitious, I guess sense, my body was like, I can predict the movement on the charts and the emotions that are uprising in with you, and I think that it's a good idea that maybe we walk away before you make a foolish mistake and stop trading logically, because I can feel the emotional brain starting to take over. Let's say that was kind of the example of what was happening inside on an or subconscious level. And then I had this thought, and then I was conscious about it, and I was like, should I leave? Should I not? Oh no, I'm good. I should X, Y, Z. If I had have just listened to that subconscious thought immediately and gone, something's told me out of nowhere that I should walk away now. So obviously my senses are doing their things and telling the chemicals in my body that changes are happening, so I should listen to this. And I didn't, and that's where I had my loss. And so I think it's really, really important to listen to these ideas. And yes, of course, some of them will be dumb. You might have an idea like, I want to go and jump on a plane to the opposite side of the world right now. Sometimes that's not the best option. Sometimes you have these ideas and you got to think about them. But a lot of the time, when your intuition or your subconscious or your gut speaks to you, whatever you want to call it, take that into consideration and actually listen, because I think that there's a lot more on a, say, chemical level or a physical level that has a reason for why you had these thoughts and feelings or these triggers. So I just wanted to share with you the idea of the computer and like trusting your intuition in that aspect, because as we discussed earlier, the emotional brain is this big, strong one that takes over and drives us. The computer is what gives us our habits that we do sort of on an unknown basis, just day-to-day routine. And our logic brain is what makes us human, the ability to think about those things and react about the consequences of our emotions and our actions and X, Y, Z. And so it's important to understand all of these and know who we are, self-reflect, and listen to our body and our brain and our mind and act accordingly. The next thing we're talking about is identity, right? The ability to, I guess, assess who we are and believe, like, I wouldn't say believe, but like, let's say understand our self-values or our self-worth or our self-esteem, and know that our identity is basically the summation of all of the emotions that we've had since we can remember. So we build this construct of who we are based on our past experiences and the emotions we've felt due to certain actions that have happened in our life. And this is just human nature, I believe. But with that, it's so easy to change, because if we realize that our actions and our thoughts and our feelings are based on what we believe about ourselves and our self-worth and our values, and that's simply based on how our emotions have reacted to certain circumstances in our life, then can we not find a different perspective on each of those circumstances and link a different emotion to each of those scenarios and find a different way of thinking about who we are in relation to those? Because I truly believe that it is not about what happens to a person, but how a person responds to what happens to them. Let me say that again. It's not about what happens to a person, but about how a person responds to what happens to them. So you can go through life, you can stub your toe, shout, scream, throw a ball at the wall, whatever it is, and just be very irate and let it ruin your whole day. Like, oh, I stubbed my toe again, negativity, frustration, rah, let's focus on all the bad things. Or you can stub your toe and go, oh man, I really shouldn't kick that wall, and just walk off. And it's a completely different scenario. And our emotions cascade, and they're infectious and contagious. And one negative emotion can lead to the next, can lead to the next. And have you ever said to yourself, who in the chat, who in this call has said to themselves, oh, it's just one of those days? Chuck a 1 in the chat if you've ever said that to yourself. I'm just having one of those days where everything goes wrong, where everything does this. Okay, we got a few people. Right. Put a 2 in the chat if you've ever had that in a positive sense, like, oh, I'm just having one of those days and everything's working for me. Okay, that's good. At least we're getting some positive sides of that too. Right, so it does work both ways. But we got to understand that it's so easy for us to run down that path, right? It's so easy for us to have something happen and then just kind of give up on the rest of the day because we think, oh, it's just one of those days. But we also have the ability to pick and react in a different way at any point of the time, in any point of the day. And I think the more you practice your introspection, which for people who aren't completely aware what that means, it's the examination or observation of one's own mental and emotional processes. So how you deal with emotions and your mental processes and developments and stuff like that. So it's really important to self-evaluate. And as we practice this, we can maybe catch ourselves in the middle of a day going, oh, it's just one of those days, and go, no, it's not going to be one of those days anymore. I'm going to turn it around right here. I'm making the decision right now that this is no longer one of those days. It's going to become the exact opposite. I'm going to change from a 1 to a 2. You know, you all said you've had the days where you've had everything go wrong, but you've also had the days where you have everything go right. And so you can easily, and I challenge you to do this next time you find yourself saying those words like, oh, it's just one of those days. Go, nope. Now it's just going to be one of those other days, and try and find the positive attitude and even laugh about it, and try and like surge yourself to a different thought pattern and try and see if you can turn it into one of those days where everything starts to go right for you. I'm just going to scroll through the chat here. I just missed a couple of comments. I believe these intuitions can be developed through recognizing them in practice. Yeah, exactly. And I totally agree. So the more we understand this, and the more we start to listen to ourselves and listen to our body and understand our senses working in different areas, the more we can go, yep, actually, this is a point in my time where I need to listen. And the more you do it, the more you listen to your body, the more you sort of get in sync, the vibrations connect, and you can actually have a lot of intuitive ideas and movements. And that's when you sort of get into this flow state, or if you're a trader trading when you're in the zone and things just make sense, like the chart just clears up. You just see things are working well, vibrations working. I've had those days where you look at the chart and you're like, no, oh, there it is. It's so obvious. Buy, bang, made like 4% in that one trade. Perfect. You know, and it does happen. And I think that does come down to listening to your body, getting into that intuition state, getting into that zone, shall we say. Where are you placing your focus and attention? We can change the focus, attention, not simple, becomes easier with practice and repetition. Yeah, so I totally agree. Like where we're placing our focus and our attention is so key. And this is exactly what I was talking about with having a day that's, it's one of those days. If you place your focus and attention on the positive things and the ideas that are going to benefit you, then they are what will follow. If you place your focus and attention on the negative things that are going to deter you, then that is usually what's going to happen. It's the old case, and I'm going to go back to snowboarding again. So I know there's a lot of Canadians here, but when you're first learning, or if you've ever taught someone to learn, and it's like, just don't look at the tree, because what happens is you've got your head over your shoulders, and then wherever you look, you tend to go. And so people who are just starting, they look at the tree, like, don't look at the tree. They're looking at the tree. Don't look at the tree. They're looking at the tree. They're getting closer to the tree, and bang, straight into the tree. But if you progress and you get better, you don't look at the trees that you might hit. You look at the path between the trees, or you look at the big open run that you're going to be going on, and you go down that path and you don't hit the trees, and it just becomes second nature, right? And you kind of forget about that. So it's definitely one of those key aspects of where is your focus, where is your attention, focus on the positives, and don't let yourself get dragged down those negative paths, shall we say. And if something does happen, again, like I was saying at the start, it's all about the way we react to something. You can go through the worst thing in the world and have the best attitude towards it, and it will become a turning point, a learning point, something progressive. You can go through something that's hardly even that bad and have the worst attitude in the world, and all of a sudden your life is flipped upside down. And where your eyes go, you follow. Exactly, where your eyes go, you follow. It's so true. Anyone who's played sport or anything like that, you can definitely relate to the ability of going exactly where you put your focus. If you've ever played, I mean, I don't know if anyone knows AFL, but if you take your eyes off the ball, you only get hit in the head with it. Look where you want to go. This is a good analogy for life overall. I totally agree. Okay. So yes, my point there was, it's not about what happens to you, but about how you respond to what happens to you. And this can change so many things in your life. And I've been very guilty of running the negative path and letting one thing upset me and being that kind of person. So I'm definitely changing that around. Derek, go Brisbane Lions, West Coast all the way, mate. Anyway, yeah. So identity is our values. Motivation is another thing I was talking about. And I was looking at the definition of this the other day, and it was quite funny. It's kind of a reason for action is where it comes. I think it's derived from Latin. So forgive me if that's incorrect. I didn't look it up too in depth, but I believe it comes from 2 Latin words and means reason for action. And so often we're like, oh, I'm not motivated. I'm not motivated. You know, I can't find the motivation to do X, Y, Z, or oh, this is so hard. I just don't have any motivation. But the reason we feel like we're lacking motivation is back to our why. If we don't have a big enough reason to take action, we're not going to be motivated. And this can go in both ways. So if we are motivated, if we have a reason to sit on the couch and do nothing, we're going to be motivated to do nothing. If we have a reason to get off our ass and make a life for ourselves, then we're going to find the motivation to do it. And the problem here lies is what is your reason for doing it? You know, like I'm trying to get back into jogging, and my reason at the moment is like, I kind of should because I've put on a few kilos since becoming a dad, but that's not really the big enough reason. So I'm struggling to get back into it. You know, I got to find out why I really want to get back into jogging. Like maybe I want to be a healthy dad who can play with their kid and not have to go into surgery from being overweight at 50, 60, whatever it is. You know, that's the things I have to start thinking about. Now that is a much stronger reason than, you know, I kind of don't want to look so chubby, because to be honest, I got a beautiful fiance in the other room. Like I don't need to be impressing anyone apart from her. And so my reason has to shift, and my motivation comes from having a big enough reason as to take action. And this is your why. It comes back down to your why. So understanding that, and this is what we'll go into next week. We'll try and get a little bit deeper into your why and knowing how to find it. I read a few comments last week that people weren't 100% sure on their why, and they wanted to focus in and really get a good strong hold on that. So we will go down understanding your why. And if anyone is willing to kind of go down that 7 levels deep exercise I was discussing, then please reach out to me and maybe we can do that on the next Friday or sometime during the week, go through the whole 7 levels deep process with someone on the call and we can see how it works. So motivation coming down to your why. And I suppose a lot of things come back down to your why and knowing something deep enough and strong enough that there is a reason, a big enough reason to get off your ass and actually do the fucking work. This is what I said before. Anything can be done as long as you're willing to do the work. Most things in life, the processes, the strategies that we have work, the people don't. We need to find our why. We need to stick with it. We need to understand. We need to self-evaluate and do the bloody work, right? I've been so guilty of this. I've got all the information, and this is what I was talking about yesterday with the analogy of learn, action, learn, action, learn, action. We need to do the work as well as learn. I was just learning, and wondering why I wasn't getting $1 million results because I wasn't doing anything, and then I started doing all this stuff and I wasn't self-evaluating. I wasn't practicing any of my introspection. I wasn't realizing what I was doing. I wasn't progressing. I wasn't developing my skills. I was just doing the same thing. And, it's all good taking action, but if you're trying to climb a mountain, you've started off downhill, there's no point in continuing that action. You need to stop and reassess, right? You need to be able to coincide the learning, the action, and then the self-evaluation. And this is kind of the main topic to my trading journal, which I'll hopefully be releasing soon enough. And it's kind of in 3 phases. We have phase 1 before the trade, phase 2 during the trade, and phase 3 after the trade. And that is learning, understanding entries, exits, all the stuff that you need to get into a good trade. Phase 2, the actual action, what's happening in the trade, how do I manage it, how do I capitalize on it, how do I get the most profits from it, how do I protect my capital, XYZ. And then step 3, which most people forget, is the self-evaluation. How did I feel during that trade? What can I progress on? How did I actually do during that trade? Could I have done something differently? Was I emotionally blind? Was I following my trading plan? So many times you go into a trade and you're just like, on to the next one. You skip phase 3, which is, I always say, is the most important part. Traders are made in the last 20 minutes of each session when they're not trading, but they're self-evaluating. So really need to work and focus on that self-evaluation part. But what else did we talk about? We were talking about mindset, identity, your attitude. And one thing I would like to sort of bring in the last 5 minutes of this is kind of what I was listening to this morning. Robert Greene was talking about a German, I believe his name was Friedrich Nietzsche. I probably pronounced that wrong, but he uses the term amor fati, which is Latin for love of fate. The concept here, which I really like, is just accepting that it is how it is, life, and loving every aspect of it, good or bad, sad or happy. Like, that is what life is. It's the ups and downs. Like, just love and accept and embrace all of what fate is. So it translates to love of fate. And I think it's a really powerful way of living, in the sense that you acknowledge that even though times are sad and bad and hard, you can love that and embrace it and understand that this is the growth and this is the development and this is the learning phase. When things are great and happy, you can love that and embrace it and understand that this is the joy, this is the reward, this is, the freedom phase, whatever you want to call it, and that things will go in ebbs and flows, just like my heartbeat analogy. It's really important that we accept what life throws at us and change our attitude to be happy with that. Like I said earlier, we can choose left or right. We can choose happy, sad. We can choose positive, negative at any point, at any time of any day. And so why not choose happy? Why not choose positive? There's a real power in accepting some of the flaws, understanding the negatives, and being okay with them. And one thing that I am trying to progress, I know there's a small portion of my trading that just needs to switch. And so through my self-evaluation this week, I wrote down this statement and I thought I would share it with you, because the idea here is that you first have to admit that you have a problem. There is some aspect that is holding you back from some progression level. And you don't have to call it a problem if you want to change your words, because problem can be quite negative, but it depends on how you want to see that. But I wrote, you must admit you have a problem. And this was my statement, which was very shocking to me because I didn't think I was like this, but I've decided that this is the way I'm going to go. I said, I have an issue with greed and an ego for being right. I must let go of this if I want to progress. I am not better, smarter, or bigger than anyone. And now, while I don't feel like I am egotistical or better than anyone, in fact, I feel quite the opposite a lot of the time, there is this inner part of me which is responding to the need to be right in a trade or to get these extra points. Like I was up by 2 and a bit% on a trade and decided to not bring in my stop loss because I thought it was going to break over the acro and continue on for much more. That is greed because I don't need much more. I don't need any more than that. Like you have to understand what your target is and what your needs are and not just want more because the opportunity arises that you can possibly get it, because the market will chew you up and spit you out. And this is what I'm learning about myself. So I repeat that again. My statement for myself to try and progress on is I have an issue with greed and an ego for being right. I must let this go if I want to progress. Now, I recommend you do some self-evaluation, today before the weekend, and see if there's any part of you that you think may be the key aspect for what's holding you back from the results you want in trading, in business, in whatever the hell you're doing, and see if you can figure it out, pull it out of your mind and write it down and say, I have an issue with, or my problem is, or whatever statement you would like to make in order to progress. And try and make it positive. You don't have to be, oh, I'm failing because of, try and use the words, as we were speaking about yesterday, in a positive light, like I would like to progress with. Anyway, that is all I have to share with you today. I think our time's just about to run out, so I'm going to wrap it up there. But thank you very much for an amazing week. And thank you very much for everyone who joined us. I'll try and get these up on Spotify by the end of the weekend. And we shall see you on Monday. And our traders actually won't see you soon. I'm going to have the weekend off because I can. So thank you very much. And yeah.
Thanks, Jake. Have a great weekend.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a great weekend, all.
Everybody have a great weekend. And hey, Jake, thanks. I took a trade. Nope, just wait. I traded yesterday, made a percentage, turned my phone off, shut my files down, and just listened to learn.
Nice, Mike. That's the way you do it.